Hey guys, Pieros here. Apologies for splitting series finale into two parts, but my schedule lately has been very tight and I simply wasn't able to showcase everything I had planned in my last video. In the previous episode, I've briefly demonstrated my little add-on to the keyframe editor which enables the user to load .ol file. We can preview the models and animations stored in those files. There's a bunch of .ol files we can check out, and here's just a few of them. As you'll see, some of the models aren't properly textured. However, it's entirely possible to update the model with proper textures in the editor. When the user loads animation file, the corresponding models are loaded from this file as well. Several .ol files contain more than one model. We can switch between the loaded models by pressing Next Mesh and Previous Mesh button. The vast majority of animations used in the game are stored in the darcy1.ol file. The animations kept there might differ between file versions, as there are some animations that were scratched from the final version of the game or some that were adjusted. Interestingly enough, the loaded models might contain alternative versions of their body part prims. It seems to me that devs initially planned to make the inventory weapons visible all the time, and drawing a weapon from a thin air is a sadly product of an unfinished feature. This technique also let us preview the animations with weapon equipped. However, in some cases, alternative body parts are stored in one model, but they do actually represent different person's body parts. There are many unused animations, and I'd love to share some of them with you. I've spent some time to implement my own Django application to preview 3D UC models via a web browser. I have used Free.js framework to render 3D models and orbit controls to let user adjust the view. Originally, I was hoping to create some sort of integrated tool which would enable the user to do more operations through this application, but I'm not really sure if it's worth the effort now. The source code for the app, with a few examples included, will be available on my GitHub. I will link it in the description. As usual, I don't really want to bore you to death with me explaining how it works, but I will have to at least mention how I've extracted the data to the format accepted by the Free.js library. But before I do that, let me introduce you to the Mushroom Wildcat. This handsome gentleman is the first model of the airthug.ol file from the prototype version. In the UC community channel, I was gifted with these two pictures of Mushroom Wildcat in the action. So this app is using GLTF format to render animations. This is a fairly common format and Blender is capable of exporting your models to it. That being said, we still need a way to grab animations from .all file and export it to Blender. Luckily for us, it turns out Blender contains a scripting tab where we can create a Python script to automate things for us. That's why I've created this script which uses the rotation and translation data from one of my previous videos and creates each individual frame from the .all file for a chosen model. Next, I simply click Export to GLTF, specify the format and deselect this group by NLA track option. As a result, I get the directory with all textures used by this model and the model itself with animations included. I place this directory to the Django static folder as this is where my app searches for the models and populates the drop-down selection options. Previewing the animations is fun, but what if the user wanted to create their own keyframes? Well, that's the tricky part, because we do not possess the software which devs use to create the keyframes. However, thanks to the amazing work of the UC community, we've been able to harvest some data that is necessary to recreate a tool that's capable of exporting keyframes into the UC format. So I've spent some time studying the UC view format and even managed to create my habilitation thesis on that topic. Ladies and gentlemen, let me demonstrate to you the view exporter.
Boom, baby!
The idea here is pretty straightforward. I load the model from the UC, adjust its limbs by rotating and moving them around, and save the transformations to the view file, which creates a unique keyframe. There's some ancient math magic behind it, but I'm gonna spare you the details. Integrating new animations into the game requires changes in the source code, as the animations in the game engine are dealt in a rather hard-coded manner. Each define in this file specifies the ID of the animation that is supposed to be played. I want to highlight one last feature of the keyframe editor before I move on. The editor enables the user to specify the damage frame. What I mean by that is that if I were to create a fighting animation, I can apply some damage modifiers to the selected frames. Here I've created some keyframes and imported them into the editor. Next, I create an animation consisting of these frames. As a result, I have an animation that looks like this. Now, in order to make this animation do some damage, we need to modify it in the keyframe editor. Here, I am selecting a keyframe and pressing C on my keyboard to mark it as a damage keyframe. As a result, the red circular grid is being rendered to highlight that given frame has been marked as a damage frame. Next, I adjust the angle from which the target will be hit by pressing left bracket and right bracket on my keyboard. The squares on the right represent the height of the attack. From what I've tested, the lowest and the highest height of the attack will cause the target to fall on the ground. The blue number in the black square at the bottom right of each frame represents the in-between counter, meaning the lower the number, the faster it switches to the next keyframe. Showtime!
How do you like the pain?
As you can see, the range of my attack is too high. Luckily, it's configurable in the editor, but let's just leave it for now. In the code, I had to append my custom animation file to the so-called game chunk representing Darcy. The animations are later propagated across all other humanoid characters. And this is the ugly part of the code, as you will notice a huge chunk of hard-coded junk. Certain animation properties can only be adjusted through the code. For example, we could set the animation to be unaffected by the gravity. There's a few more things I would like to cover in this last video, so let's continue. Probably not many of you know this, but there's a special cutscene feature in the game. Here's how the cutscene may look like. Cutscenes may contain audio and text as well. The cutscene editor is available inside the mission editor. We can navigate there by placing the trigger cutscene waypoint and then selecting its properties. A new window will be created, inside which we can customize our cutscene. Let's preview the existing cutscene to see how it looks inside the editor. The left panel displays human characters of the UC. We can drag and drop them on the scene to instantiate them. We can scroll down the panel to expand the animations folder, inside which there are two subfolders, one for the Darcy and the other for the Roper. We can insert selected animation by drag and dropping it to the timeline to a given character. The data used in this editor is grabbed from the A and M files, which are generated when we save the animations in the keyframe editor. I would also like to mention some of Stanley Jobson's recent work. He's been working on the UC map editor that would work as a standalone application. He's been improving it continuously and plans to add buildings and wall support in the future releases. Right now it's already much more convenient to use than the UC editor. I strongly recommend it to you guys. Links to his project will be available in the description. And now it's time to slowly end the video. I would like to express my deepest gratitude to every single one of you. You guys have been great, and making those videos were an amazing experience for me, and I wouldn't have made them if it weren't for your great feedback. This poll will determine which UC mod I will focus in my future video, but these ideas might take some time to implement, so I cannot promise you how quickly I will deliver them. That being said, I will also try to mix some of my content on this platform with the main goal to increase my reach. Thank you guys once again, and take care.